Hi everyone, my name is Alana Brown and I'm going to be presenting on the largemouth bass, or scientifically known as Micropterus salmoides. So the classification of the largemouth bass, it goes Kingdom Animalia, Phylum Chordata, class Actinopterygii, which is ray-finned bony fish. The order is Perciformis, and then the family is Centrocaridae, and then the genus of species, as I already said, is Micropterus salmoides. So largemouth bass and smallmouth bass they can be easily confused. So I wanted to start off with clarifying between the two. So a largemouth bass, as seen in the picture of me when I was 8 or 9, has a larger mouth, hence the name, but the mouth will go past the eye. As you can see on the smallmouth bass, the mouth curve right here, the hinge, is like in line with the eye. With the largemouth bass, it goes further back. And then also another easily just distinctive feature is looking at the two dorsal fins. On a smallmouth bass, they're connected, while on a largemouth bass, which could be hard to tell from this photo, they're not. There's a little space in between the two. The next I want to talk about is distribution. They are found all over the United States. They range in North America from the St. Lawrence River, the Great Lakes, Hudson Bay, and into the Mississippi River Basin. And this map kind of shows where they're native versus non-native. So all this orangey, yellowish color, so basically the Midwest, Southeast area, and some northern areas, the largemouth bass is native, but in the other areas it is non-native. And so therefore it can still be caught and used recreationally, just like it can in the yellow parts of the map. It's just not native. So habitat needs. I thought it would be fun to have a little video of the bass swimming and kind of displaying what the habitat looks like. But the habitat typically needs clear, vegetated lakes, ponds, swamps, and backwaters of pools, creeks, and rivers. So essentially any type of fresh water that has a good abundance of dissolved oxygen will be suitable for a largemouth bass to inhabit. So this is an example, and then the background behind this video is also a good example of where largemouth bass can live. So largemouth bass are polyandrous, meaning one female mates with multiple males in a single breeding season. So they tend to spawn in areas with a firm bottom of sand, mud, or gravel. So once the water reaches 15 degrees Celsius, spawning can start. So that typically is between January to March in the south and May to June in northern parts. So the male will create the nest by getting sand and mud together, which can be seen in this photo. This background is the nest and the male bass is protecting it. And once the male has created the nest, it will go and get the female and bring her to the nest to drop her eggs. But the female just doesn't do it willingly. The male has to try and get her to drop the eggs, so they'll swim around her and then like bump her a couple times and try to get her to drop the eggs. As soon as the eggs are dropped, the male will externally fertilize them. So the female isn't holding the eggs. Once she drops the eggs, the male fertilizes them, and there they sit. And it takes the eggs between 1 to 5 days to hatch. So a baby bass, like just born, is called fry. So largemouth bass fry reach independence in between 7 to 10 days, and then the species reaches sexual maturity in 3 to 12 months. And interestingly enough, they last longer in the wild than they do in captivity, with 15 to 23 years versus 8 to 12 in captivity. Largemouth bass are carnivorous, so they tend to eat other fish. As seen in this photo, a bass is eating another fish. Crayfish, or otherwise known as crawdads, which can be seen in this, or frogs. And then predators. Both juvenile and adult largemouth bass have to fear for the bald eagle, and then young have a few more predators since they're smaller, such as great blue herons, and then larger fish like pike, catfish, muskellunge, many larger fish. And then the adult largemouth bass really only have, aside from the bald eagle, humans, which can be seen with my little sister here several years ago when she caught this bass on her little Barbie pole. So behavior-wise, largemouth bass tend to live in solitary, don't live with others, and they just don't interact. But when they're young, They live in social groups and form schools with similarly sized fish. They are ectotherms as well, so that means their body heat is acquired from the environment. So in the spring, they'll migrate to the warmest available waters, and in winter, they migrate to deeper waters, just trying to maintain relative body temperature. They may also rest under lily pads or in shade, so I put a picture of some lily pads. And they tend to be more active in the evening and move to shallow water to feed. And for their hunting capabilities, they'll depend on sight and hearing to locate their prey and feed on them. So, yeah, that was it.